بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بسيدنا ومولانا أبي عبد الله الحسين عليه السلام، وجعلنا الله وإياكم من الطالبين بثأره بين يدي الإمام المنصور المؤيد المهدي من آل محمد. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد، وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. لبيك داعي الله لبيك، إن كان لم يجبك بدني عند استغاثتك ولساني عند استنصارك، فقد أجابك قلبي وسمعي وبصري. فلئن أخرتني الدهور وعاقني عن نصرك المقدور، ولم أكن لمن حاربك محاربا ولمن نصب لك العداوة مناصبا، فلأندبنك صباحا ومساء ولأبكين لك بدل الدموع دما. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. On the dawn of the day of Ashura, Imam Hussain led his companions in prayer. Having completed the prayer, the Imam then stood up and began to speak to them. Having praised Allah and thanked Him, he then said to them, إن الله تعالى قد أذن في قتلي وقتلكم في هذا اليوم، فعليكم بالصبر والقتال. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained for my death and your death on this day. So hold on to patience and be ready to fight. His companions numbered between 72 towards 200 according to different maqatil. He gave the authority of the right wing to Zuhair ibn al-Qayn and the authority of the left wing to Habib ibn Madahir. He gave the banner and as his flag bearer his brother Abbas, and he himself took the center of the army to protect his family. The opposition was made up of 30,000 soldiers led by Umar bin Sa'ad. In charge of the right wing was Amr bin Hajjaj al-Zabidi, and in charge of the left wing was Shimr bin Dhil Jawshan. In charge of the foot soldiers was Shibth bin Rabi'i, and in charge of the cavaliers was Uzra bin Qais, and in charge of the banner was Duwayd or Durayd. When they approached the tents of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, they saw that there was fire in front of them, to which Shimr came forward and said, "Is Hussein preparing himself for fire now, before the fire of the day of judgment?" Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam looked at him, or looked at those around him, and said, "Is that Shimr bin Dil-Jawshan?" They said to him, "Yes." He said to him, "O son of the goat herder, you are more worthy of entering that fire than I am." Muslim bin Awsaja then came forward to strike an arrow towards him because of the insult, to which Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam said, "Akrahu an abda'ahum biqital." I do not like that I am the one who starts this killing and this fighting. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, seeing the floods in front of him, raised his hands and said a supplication that affects us until today. "O Allah, you are my trust in every calamity, and you are my hope in every difficulty. And every matter that falls upon me, you are a trust and a preparer. How many a difficulty in which the kernel of the heart becomes weakened, opportunities become scarce, friends let you down, and enemies mock you. Have I complained to you and pushed towards you, and you alone, for I desire none but you. But you have always been there to relieve me of these and to remove them from me. O Allah, you are the master of every blessing and the final hope of every wish." Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam then continued, and he began to talk to the people in the army opposite him, and he said to them, "At this moment, O people, listen to me and do not rush off until I admonish you, for it is your right to know the reason for why I have come to you. So if you accept me and you believe in me and you are fair to me, then you'll be happier with your choice in deciding not to fight me. But if you do not accept me and are not fair to me, then conspire together alongside your partners. Don't leave anything out or anything vague in your plan, and don't give me any respite. For surely Allah is my guardian, who sent down the Quran, and He is the guardian of the righteous." When the ladies of Al Muhammad Salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhim began to hear this, they all began to wail and they began to cry. Realizing what was happening on this day to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, the Imam turned around to Ali al-Akbar and to Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhim as-salam, and he said, "Go to them and quieten them down, for I fear what will come after for them will be a lot more difficult for them." At this moment, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam began to praise Allah and the prophets of Allah and the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family and the angels. And then he began to recite that which could not be recorded and that which was seen as the most eloquent of words. Imam al-Hussein began by saying, "O people, be conscious of Allah and do not let this world fool you. For if any of its inhabitants was to stay on it forever, then it would be the prophets of Allah who would deserve to live forever, because they are the ones who have been worthy of Allah's pleasure, and they are the ones who are pleased with Allah's command. But this world was created for it to end one day and perish. Its new becomes old, its blessings are taken away, its joy turns into grief, and at the end it will be perished from its roots. So therefore, take your provision, and the best of provision that you can take is to be conscious of Allah. So be conscious of Allah and you will be successful. O people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the exalted, created this world as a temporal place that will one day end, changing the state of its inhabitants from one form to another. The arrogant are lured by it, and the wicked are deceived by it. So do not be fooled by this world, for indeed, if you lean on it, it will cut your hopes, and it will disappoint the one whose greed has indulged in it. I see that all of you over here have gathered on a matter which has brought together the anger of Allah, which you have brought upon you the anger of Allah, where Allah settles His wrath upon you, removes His blessings from you, and keeps His mercy away from you. O you people, what a great God we have, but what terrible servants you are. You confess that you obey God, and you believe in the messenger of God, yet you crawl to kill his family and his progeny on this day. Surely Shaitan has overtaken you from the remembrance of the great Lord. Woe be to you and what you do. Surely we belong to Allah, and to Allah we will return. I seek refuge in Allah from those who seek to stone me. I seek refuge from those of the most arrogant who don't believe in the day of judgment. O people, review who I am, and then ask yourselves whether you should be doing what you're doing. Review my ancestry and see who I am, and then go back to yourselves and blame it and ask whether you should violate my sanctity and you should kill my family. Am I not the son of the daughter of the Prophet of Allah? Am I not the son of his successor, his cousin, and the first to believe in him and what Allah has sent down to him? Is Hamza, the master of the martyrs, not my father's uncle? Is Ja'far al-Tayyar, the one who flies with wings, not my uncle? Have you not heard the saying of the Prophet, peace be upon him and his family, when he says that Hassan and Hussein are the masters of the youth of paradise? What I say is the truth if you believe me, for I have never uttered a lie. Never have I come forward and uttered a lie, since I knew that Allah does not like lying and that Allah harms the fabricator. But if you don't believe me, then go and ask those who live amongst you who I am. Go and ask those who live amongst you, such as Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari, Abu Sa'id al-Khidri, Sahel bin Sa'ad al-Sa'idi, Zayd bin Arqam, amongst others who are living amongst you. If you go and ask Anas bin Malik, you will see all of them will tell you that it is my grandfather who said that Hassan and Hussein are the masters of the youth of paradise. At this moment, when he heard this, Shimr bin Diljoshan said, this man worships Allah on the very fringe. That's even if he understands a word that he's even saying. Habib ibn Madahir, hearing this, broken because of the insult towards Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he turned around to him and he said to him that by Allah, you are the one who doesn't know how to worship Allah. And by Allah, you are the one who definitely does not understand his words, because Allah has already blinded your heart. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, still in the morning of Karbala, looked towards the opposition and said, I ask all of you, if you are in doubt about me, then is there anyone who is alive at this moment, who is the son of the daughter of your prophet, whether you go towards the east or you go towards the west? Woe be unto you. What is it that you have come to kill me for? Is there someone of you that I have killed who you are seeking to gain revenge from? Is it a situation where some of your money has been stolen by me? Or is it that I am to be punished for someone that I've hurt? Woe be unto you! What crime have I done for you to come and kill me? They all remained silent at that moment, with not even one of them responding. Imam Hussain alayhi salam then looked at them and he said, why don't you ask Shabath bin Rabi'i? Ask Hajjar bin Abjar. Ask Qais ibn al-Ash'ath. Ask Zayd bin Harith. Did you not all write to me and say to me, make your arrival imminent so that we have an army in Kufa that's ready to fight alongside you? At that moment, they all responded, no, we did not. He said to them, yes, by Allah, you definitely did. They said to him, we did not. At that moment, Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam said, then if you hate me that much, then why don't you allow me and my family to leave and go home? At that moment, Qais, the son of al-Ash'ath, said to him, O Hussein, why don't you pledge allegiance towards your cousins? You know that they're not gonna harm you in any way. And you know at the same time they'll give you whatever it is that you want. The narrations mention at this moment when he said that, Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam said to Qais ibn al-Ash'ath, he said to him, you are like your brother. You still have the stain on the killing of Muslim bin Aqil, which Bani Hashim know that you have on you. And now you want me to come and pledge allegiance. I will not do this like a person humiliated, and nor will I be the one who runs away like he is a slave. When he continued saying this, he went on to look towards the people of Kufa, and then he began to speak to them, all of them together. He said, O people of Kufa, woe be upon you, and may grief overtake you. You are the ones who called us to come to help you, and we responded promptly to you. And now you are unsheathing your swords against us, the very swords that you were meant to use to support us. You are now ignited a fire which we were the ones who initiated against your enemy and against our enemy. He then said to them, you have become helpers of your enemy against your supporters, helping a group who haven't even ruled over you with any justice, and nor do you have any hope unto them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spread punishment against you now that you have made sure that you have left us in a position of useless swords, tranquil hearts, and unsound opinion. He then turned around to them and he said, you all of you ran towards this like grasshoppers, and you gathered around this like butterflies, ready to betray us as you betrayed us. May you be crushed, O slaves of this world, slaves of this nation, dividers of the united, distorters of the book, refuters of the word. And you are the same people who are the executors of the devil and the ones who have changed the traditions. Woe be unto you. You go and support them, and you let us down. But why should I be surprised with what that you've done? For indeed you were born on betrayal, and you grew on it, and you fed on it, until you became like that wicked fruit, which was seen as a fruit which is bad to look at. Indeed, you people have gone towards that side to support the army of the oppressors against the family of the Prophet. He then at that moment got his turban. He wore his turban at this moment, and he came forward and he made it clear towards the opposition that all of you know who I am. He placed the turban and the Quran on his head and he walked towards them. And he said to them that the book of Allah and the traditions of my grandfather are now between me and you. Do you all know who I am? They said, yes, we all know who you are. He then looked towards them and he said, then why do you want to kill me? They said, upon the orders of Ibn Ziyad. Imam Hussain alayhi salam looked towards them and he said, the illegitimate son of illegitimate thinks that he can forces me between the sword and humiliation, and never will I be humiliated. Allah refuses for us to be humiliated, and the prophets and those honorable labs in which we were raised, which stood up against injustice, and which would never accept the obedience of the depraved, but would rather die a death of honor. He then looked towards Umar bin Sa'ad and he said to him at that moment, O Umar bin Sa'ad, you kill me and you expect the governorship of Ibn Ziyad to be given to you of the lands of Ray and the lands of Jorjan. This will never come to you. Rather, this is a promise that I promised. And indeed, you'll see that your head will be on a stick where the children of Kufa will come forward and they'll throw their stones on it. The companions of Imam Hussain alayhi salam then emerged one by one, with some of them giving sermons at that moment. Of them was who? Of them was Zuhair ibn al-Qayn. Zuhair ibn al-Qayn came forward and said, O people of Kufa, a warning to you about the punishment of Allah. Indeed, it is the right of a brother to advise his Muslim brother, considering fighting has not broken out, then you are still worthy of admonishment, for we are brothers of one another. But if the fighting was to begin, then know one thing, then our relationship is cut. And if our relationship is cut, then at that moment you are a nation and we are a nation. O people of Kufa, Bani Umayyah, know one thing, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has tested us and you with the progeny of the Prophet. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see how we will react and how you will react with the progeny of the Prophet. So we ask you to support them, and we ask you to dissociate from the tyrants Yazid as well as Ibn Ziyad. When he said, we'll ask you, then he said, all you will see is the evil of their reign. They will have no problem at all pulling out your eyes, cutting your hands, and cutting your legs. They'll disgrace your bodies and hang them on day trees. And they did this with Hujr bin Adi and his supporters. And they did this as well with Hani bin Urwa and his. When Zuhair said this, the enemies and those who loved Ibn Ziyad began to curse him and said, we will not leave your friend and all of those who support him until we kill all of you, or that we take you towards Ibn Ziyad. He said, if you're going to support and love anyone, then love the son of Fatima, has more rights than the son of Sumayya to be loved and supported. I seek refuge because the reality is that it looks like you're going to go ahead and kill. You should stay away from Yazid and stay away from Ibn Ziyad, because you can still show your obedience to Ibn Ziyad without killing Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Shimr bin Dil-Jawshan came forward at that moment and he said to him, quiet and down, may Allah silence your voice, stop speaking to us. At that moment, Zuhair replied to him by saying, O Shimr, I don't speak to you. You are like cattle, not worth speaking to. You don't even know 2 verses of the Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punish you and you will see humiliation. He said to him at that moment, O Zuhair, shortly you and all your companions will all be killed one by one. He said to him, O Shimr, you think you can threaten me with death? I'd rather die with Imam al-Hussain than live a life next to you. At that moment, Zuhair looked towards the army and said, don't be with a merciless, humanless person like this person, for he will deviate you from the religion of Allah. You will never receive the intercession of the Prophet of Allah while you go in this direction of fighting his progeny and his family. At that moment, Imam al-Hussein sent someone to Zuhair and said to him, Zuhair, come back. Aba Abdullah says to you, come back from your speech, for you have been like the believer in the story of Pharaoh. For you have made sure that you've given your admonishment, and now we will see whether it benefits them. Burair al-Hamadani, one of the great companions of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, then came forward and he came towards them and he said, with all of them knowing him as a reciter and teacher of the Quran, he came forward at that moment and he said to them, O people, the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family was sent as a bearer of glad tidings, a warner, a caller to truth, an illuminating light. Therefore, this is Hussein, his grandson. You should seek to protect him and honor him. Look at his woman, who are now in a state of thirst. At that moment, the people said to him, let him die thirsty, like those who have died before him. He replied by saying to them, what are you going to do with his woman and his children, who are being held as captives? The reply that came is, we will leave that to Ibn Ziyad. He said to them, woe be unto you people. You are the ones who invited him and called him and said you'll support him. And now you are the same very people who have turned around against him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not quench your thirst on the day of judgment in the way that you've decided not to quench his. These words began to affect Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi. At that moment, Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi, while he was on the opposition, came to Umar bin Sa'ad. He said to him, O Umar bin Sa'ad, are you going to fight this man? Umar bin Sa'ad said, by Allah, we will wage a war against him, where at the very least hands will and the heads will be severed. He said to him, but did you not hear what he had to say? He said, yes, I did. If it was in my hands, then I'd let him go. But I received the orders from the governor, and therefore I've got to listen to the governor. At that moment, Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi turned around and blended with the rest of the army. He then looked at Qurrat ibn Qais, and he said to Qurra at that moment, have you given water to your horse? Qurra said to him, no. He said, do you want to have water? Qurra thought that Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi may have decided to leave silently and was making an excuse. At that moment, Hur, when he turned around, started to go towards the army of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. At that moment, Muhajir bin Aus said, I looked at him. I said to him, are you now deciding to go to attack Hussein? He said, I looked at Hur and he was silent and trembling. He said, at that moment, I said to him, if they were to ask me, who is the bravest man in the whole of Kufa, the strongest of them, I would say Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi. He said, I looked at him, where are you going? He looked at me and he said, I have to make a decision between heaven and hell. And I definitely choose heaven, even though I may be burnt by it. He took a member of his family and his servant, and they went towards the army. He placed his spear towards the ground, and he turned his armor around. And then he came close to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, knowing that he was the one responsible for blocking the water from the children of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He came towards the Imam and he said with his hands out, Oh Allah, I am repentant to you, so forgive me. Oh Allah, I am the one who frightened the hearts of you, the children of the Prophet of Allah, and blocked their ways. Oh Hussein, oh Imam, I come to you repentant, asking for your forgiveness. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam said to him, Allah will forgive you. At that moment, that brought a smile on the face of Hur, who recognized that this was the meaning of eternal bliss, forgiveness from Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Hur then said to him, Aba Abdullah, when I left Kufa, I heard a voice saying, O Hur, prepare yourself for paradise. I thought to myself, how can I prepare myself for paradise when I'm about to fight the son of the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih. But now I realize why that voice came. He said to him, O Imam, do you mind if I go out and I preach to them and speak to them? Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam said to him, O Hur, please go ahead. He came out and he said, O people of Kufa, woe be unto you, and may your mothers weep over you. You are the ones who have invited him, and now you surround him to fight him, and you forbade him from even going out to a place where there is a sense of security at the very least for him. You see that the Jews and the Christians, the Zoroastrians, as well as seeing animals like the pigs and the dogs, all of them drink from the Euphrates, yet the daughters of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih are blocked from drinking from that water. How could you do such a thing? Is this the way that you repay Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih for what he gave to you? May Allah not quench your thirst on the day of judgment. They began to shoot him with arrows until he went back towards the army of the Imam. Shumar bin Diljoshan now came out. He said, where are the sons of my sister? Where are the sons of al-Banin? At that moment, the sons did not reply. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam said to them, reply to him even though he is a fasiq. So they came forward. He said, listen, O sons of my sisters, before the war begins, all of you can have immunity with our side. Leave Hussein's side. Leave the side of your brother. Abul Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam at that moment turned around and said, curse be upon you and curse be on what you're with. We will never leave the side of our Imam and our brother. Curse be upon all of those who are with you. Umar bin Sa'ad now, upon hearing the replies of the army of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, upon seeing members of his army join the army of the Imam, said, give me a bow and arrow. So they gave it to him. He shot it into the army of the Imam. He said, be a witness that I was the first to shoot the arrow on the 10th of Muharram. Be a witness to the governor that I am the first to shoot the arrow. Now all of you begin shooting. When they all began shooting, the war then began and the battle of Karbala began. When the battle began, automatically at that moment, with the shooting of 500 of the most famous archers, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam lost close to 50 of his companions from the arrows that killed them straight away. Looking around, seeing his companions lying on the ground, many of them who had been loyal to Abu Abdullah were now killed with the shower of the arrows. Of them, the companions that remained were a number of some of the most famous ones who stood loyal to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Who stood loyal to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. The first of the companions of the Imam who went out on the battlefield was Muslim bin Awsaja. Muslim bin Awsaja went out and he fought valiantly, a man of the highest respect, a jurist, the Quran reciter, and one of the best people who had been loyal to the Imam. He fought at the beginning. When they fought one-on-one. But who could defeat the soldiers of Hussein one-on-one? Umar bin Sa'ad said, don't fight these men one-on-one. None of you will win. Rather go and surround them from every angle. Imagine the scene, 30,000 against Muslim bin Awsaja. He was fighting them while they were attacking him from behind and from the front. And his best friend Habib ibn Madahir was watching in the tent. While he was fighting, All of a sudden, two of them attacked him at the same time and he fell. And he called out, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Imam Hussain alayhi salam ran out with Habib ibn Madahir. When they ran out, they came, both of them, and sat by Muslim's body. When they sat there, Habib looked into Muslim's eyes. And he said to him, although it is still not tolerable, but at least paradise awaits you. He said to him, God bless you, Habib. Habib then said to him, O Muslim, if it wasn't for the fact that I know that I'm gonna die as well shortly, I would execute your will for you. What is it that you have as a will that you want to say? He looked at him and he said, وصيك بهذا القرين. My will is that you look after the stranger here. غريب الغاضري. The stranger of the land of Ghadariya. He said to him, I promise I will. They took back Muslim bin Awsaj, the two of them together. After them, the son of Kalbi came forward, and he had been there in Karbala with his wife, sometimes known as Abdullah al-Kalbi, others say Wahab al-Kalbi, others say these may be two different people. But he came out and he was ready to fight, and his wife was alongside him. And he came out with the famous words, إن تنكروني فأنا ابن الكلب سوف تروني وترون ضربي وحملتي وصولتي في الحرب أدرك ثأري بعد ثأري صحبي أدفع الكرب أمام الكرب ليس جهادي في الوغى باللعب. Narrations mention that his wife had been alongside him and that they had been recently married. And she said to him, don't go, stay with us. And he said to her that I have to go out and defend Imam Hussain alayhi salam. At that moment again, she said to him, don't go, I beg you, come back. He said, I'm sorry, I'm gonna leave. Then he heard a voice saying to him, fight amongst the pure ones of Al Muhammad. He turned around, it was his wife. He said to her, you just told me a number of times that do not go out and fight, but now you say to me, go out and fight. What made you change your mind? She said, I turned around. She said, I turned around and I saw Aba Abdullah standing alone by the tent. His loneliness killed me. She said, and I see the pure children of Hussein with no water to drink. He said to her at this moment, may Allah bless you. He went out on the battlefield and he fought valiantly until he was killed. Another of the children of companions of Imam al-Hussein, a child came forward. He was a young child. He was not obliged to fight alongside Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. So he came forward. Abu Abdullah said to him, you don't have to fight. Please go back to your mom. His mom came forward and said, what do I answer your mother on the day of judgment? That her son was alone on the plains of Karbala and I gave nothing to him. The young boy came out in front of the opposition and said, Amiri Hussein wa ni'mal amir. سرور فؤاد البشير النذير علي وفاطمة والداه فهل تعلمون له من نظير له طلعة مثل شمس الضحى له غرة مثل بدر منير. He came out and he fought valiantly until he was killed. They threw his head to his mom. His mom threw his head back, saying that's little given back to Imam al-Hussein. After him came out a number of brave warriors, amongst them John, who was of the companions of Ahl al-Bayt from many years back. He had served in the house of Al-Muhammad and had been serving in the house as well of Abu Dhar al-Ghafari. He came and said, Aba Abdullah, let me now go out and defend you. He said to him, John, you've served us for so long, you don't have to. He said to him, Aba Abdullah, allow me to be amongst those who stands up in front of your father and says that I was in front of those who defended you. He came out on the battlefield and he said in front of everybody that was there, كيف ترى الكفار ضرب الأسود ضربا بالسيف عن بني محمد أذب عنهم باللسان واليد أرجو بها الجنة يوم المورد. Reports say that it was either him or another slave that when he fell, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam placed his cheek on the cheek of them. When John felt the cheek of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he said, who is like me? And the cheek of the son of Rasulullah is on my cheek when I die. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam then took him back towards the army. When he took him back towards the tents, then another of the companions came out known as Abbas al-Shakiri. Abbas al-Shakiri was well known in the people of Kufa as one of the most knowledgeable and the best of Quran reciters. He came to Abu Abdullah and said, allow me to go out and fight. He went out on the battlefield. None of them would come near him, especially one-on-one. He said, what's wrong with all of you? Why don't you fight me? Come on. None of them would come forward. So he decided, well, if you're not going to come to me, then I'm going to go straight through you. He went straight into the army and he fought valiantly, showing his love for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam until the army attacked him and they all vied to take his head because they wanted the biggest reward. For Abbas al-Shakiri was seen as a major scalp in the army of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. After him, Burair, and then after him, a number of the companions of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam were killed until it was coming near the time of Salah. When it came near the time of Salah, Abu Thumam al-Sa'adi came to the Imam and said, oh Imam, it is now the time of Dhuhr. I see the sun. Oh Imam, while I fight alongside you is one thing. I'd love to pray in Jama'ah behind you. The Imam said, may Allah reward you for your love of Salah. And may Allah reward you for being those who remember Allah in these difficult moments. At that moment, Hussein bin Numair, one of the commanders of Umar bin Sa'ad Zami, said, your Salah will never be accepted. Habib ibn Madahir looked at him and said, you donkey. You're saying that the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi Salah will not be accepted. He said to him, yes, that's what I'm saying. At that moment, upon the shooting of arrows, Habib went into the middle of the battlefield. Beloved to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He continued to fight valiantly, mentioning himself and making it clear who he was until he was there laid on the ground with Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi and Zuhair ibn al-Qayn and others coming forward to protect him. At that moment, after Habib had died, Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi came to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and he said to him, Aba Abdullah, allow me to be the one who goes forward to fight next. Imam al-Hussein said to him, go ahead. He went forward on the battlefield and looked at the opposition and said, إني أنا الحر ومأوى الضيف أضربكم في أعناقكم بالسيف عن خير من حل بلاد الخيف أضربكم ولا أرى من حيفي. He fought valiantly. They began to jump at him from every angle. because they hated him for defecting from their army, which they saw as a betrayal. Of them, Yazid bin Sufyan, who came forward and attacked him, but he warded him off. And then others who attacked his horse, but he jumped off his horse and stood up against 40 of them and killed them, until one of them attacked him and made him fall on the ground. He called out, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. At that moment, Imam Hussain came running towards him. He sat by him and he looked at him in the eyes. And he said to him, Anta al-hurru kama sammadka ummuk. You are free like your mother named you. Anta al-hurru fi dunya wal akhirah. You are free in this world and in the hereafter. لنعم الحر حر بني رياح صبور عند مشتبك الرماح لنعم الحر إذ فاد حسينا وجاد بنفسه عند الصباح. Imam al-Hussein came forward to pray Salat al-Khawf, a salah where there are some companions with you in the Jama'ah and then some are separated waiting for that group to finish, and a salah which had in front of him his companions Abdullah bin Sa'id al-Hanafi and Zuhair ibn al-Qayn. Both of them said, Aba Abdullah, you go ahead and pray. We will take every arrow that comes your way. By the end of his salah, Abdullah bin Sa'id, upon hearing Imam al-Hussein complete his salah, he fell directly on the ground with arrows all over his body. Imam al-Hussein looked at him in his eyes, and his last words to Imam were, Aba Abdullah, was I loyal in what I did? Imam al-Hussein said, you have displayed your loyalty. He then breathed his last and died. At that moment, Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, backbone of Imam al-Hussein, authority of the right wing of the army, placed his hand on the shoulders of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, as if he wanted to make clear to him, Aba Abdullah, now it's time for me to go. I have to be next in line to defend you. When he placed his hands on his shoulders, he said, أقدم هديت هاديا مهديا فاليوم ألقى جدك النبيا وحسنا والمرتضى عليا وذا الجناحين فتى الكمية وأسد الله الشهيد الحيا. What did he say? He said to him, go forward, for you are the one who is guided and is our guide. Today I'm gonna meet your grandfather, the Holy Prophet, and Hassan and Ali al-Murtada, and Ja'far, the one who is the valiant youth who flies with wings, and the master of martyrs, the living martyr, Hamza. Zuhair ibn al-Qayn went out on the battlefield in front of the opposition and said, أنا زهير وأنا ابن القين أذودكم بالسيف عن حسيني إن حسينا أحد السبطين من عترة النبي الزكي الزيني ذاك رسول الله غير المين يا ليت نفسي قسمت قسمين. He fought valiantly on the battlefield. They could not come near him until they began to surround him. Then all of a sudden one spear hit him. He tried to remain up while the spear had hit him. He tried to hold on and fight as valiantly as he could until they all surrounded him and they dug their swords deep into him. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam ran out. When he ran out, he said, may Allah curse you and raise you as pigs and monkeys on the day of judgment. At that moment, all the companions of the Imam had now died, and now it came to the turn of Bani Hashim. The first of Bani Hashim to emerge on that day was Ali al-Akbar, the son of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam, who was 27 on that day, came forward. When the ladies saw him, they shouted out, ارحم غربتنا فليس لنا طاقة على فراقك. Please look at us and our plight. We cannot take losing you. They began to wail and cry. He came towards his father and he looked at his father and said to him, Father, give me permission for me to go out and fight. His father gave him his horse by the name of Lahiq, which means the horse that catches up. He came out on the battlefield and he said, أنا علي بن الحسين بن علي نحن ورب البيت أولى بالنبي أطعنكم بالرمح حتى ينثني أضربكم بالسيف أحمي عن أبي ضرب غلام هاشمي علوي والله لا يحكم فينا ابن الدعي. Imam al-Hussein, seeing his son go out, he went with him and he called out, O Umar bin Sa'ad, may Allah kill your progeny the way you are killing mine. You disrespected my position with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih. And now I pray to Allah that someone slaughters you in your bed. Imam al-Hussein alongside his son, he came out and he said at that moment, O people, O Allah, bear witness that a man has come out to these people who most resembles the Prophet in his manners, in his features, and in his speech. And whenever we longed to see the Prophet, we would always look at his face. O Allah, deprive these people of blessings, divide them, tear them apart, for they are the ones who have come forward to kill us in this way. He then turned around and said that indeed Allah has chosen Adam, Noah, the family of Imran, family of Abraham, descendants one from another. Indeed, these are the ones who are the best. Allah is the all-hearing and Allah is the all-knowing. Ali al-Akbar emerged on the battlefield. He fought valiantly, killing, according to certain Maqtal, over 100 of the opposition. But then he turned around and came back to his father, and he said to his father, the thirst is killing me, and the weight of my sword and my armor is too heavy for me. His father looked at him and said to him, O Ali, shortly your grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih will quench your thirst from the pool of Kawthar, that thirst which will never ever come back to you again. Then Imam al-Hussein, being a father towards his son, placed his tongue on the tongue of Ali al-Akbar, to which Ali said, Father, your tongue is drier than mine. Ali al-Akbar went out on the battlefield again. Murrah bin Munqidh said, let the sins of all the Arabs be on my shoulders if I don't kill him and make his father suffer right now. He came forward, he thrust the spear into the chest of Akbar. When Akbar fell on the ground, when he was falling, he then hit him on his head. Akbar then placed his hands, but his hands went over the eyes of his horse. His horse went one way and the other, not knowing where it was going. And then it went towards the opposition army and he fell onto the earth and called out, Father, Father, come to me. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Imam al-Hussein came out until he got towards his son's body and looked at his son in his eyes, knowing that these were the final moments between him and his son. He then took his son back towards the army. He placed his son back towards the tent. Imagine the plight of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam with his son. After his son had been killed, then Abdullah, the son of Muslim bin Aqil, came forward and he said, اليوم ألقى مسلما وهو أبي عصبة بادوا على دين النبي. He came forward to defend the rights of his uncle until from the opposition Yazid bin Ruqad al-Juhani attacked him with an arrow. The arrow hit his forehead When he had tried to protect himself from the arrow was stuck with his hand on his forehead. He could not remove his hand. Then he came forward and he attacked the young man, and the young man fell on the ground. When he fell, his cousins from the line of Abu Talib, from the sons of Ja'far and Aqil, all of them came out one by one, especially of them Aun and Muhammad. And amongst them you had Muhammad, the son of Muslim. They all came out and they fought valiantly until they were all killed one by one. Then after them, you had amongst them the sons of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, who came out onto the battlefield. Abu Bakr, the son of Imam al-Hassan, came out. And then after him, Abdullah bin Aqil, Abu Bakr, the son of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And then after him, you had Qasim, who was the son of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. When Qasim came out on the battlefield, his face shone like a bright moon. And he came back towards his uncle and said, "Uncle, allow me to be of those who defend you." When he came out on the battlefield, he said, "إن تنكروني فأنا نجل الحسن سبط النبي المصطفى والمؤتمن هذا حسين كالأسير المرتهن بين أناس لاصق صوب المزن." At that moment he came out and he fought valiantly until a member of the opposition said, "I'll be the one who'll finishes him right now." Hamid bin Muslim looked at him and said to him, "What's wrong with you? There are so many soldiers around him." He said, "No, I want to be the one who kills him and cuts him." He came towards him and he struck him. When his sandal had broken, he was trying to fix his sandal. They all came out and they attacked him one by one. Imam al-Hussein heard the cry, "Uncle, uncle, come and help me, please." Imam al-Hussein, the only companion, the only member of the army, the only person on his army who, when he was killed, Imam went straight to his killer, was Qasim ibn al-Hassan. Imam went to his killer and killed him. And then he sat by the body of Qasim. He said, "It hurts that your uncle that you called him, but he couldn't help you. Or that he helped you, but he could not save you." He took Qasim with his feet dragging on the ground. And he took him back into the tent and placed him next to Ali al-Akbar. Only Allah knows what happened to the hearts of the mothers of the 10th of Muharram, as their sons lay there on the ground, one after the other. At that moment, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam turned around towards his brothers, Abdullah, Uthman, and Ja'far, and he said to them, "I want all of you now to move forward until I see you admonishing, seeking the pleasure of Allah and His Prophet." They all came out one by one, and then he said, Abdullah, to the eldest of them, "Go out and fight until you are killed in the cause of Allah." All three of them were then martyred. Then Abbas came towards Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. When he came towards the Imam, he said to him, "Aba Abdullah, my Imam, my master, I see that the women are thirsty, and I see that your companions are being killed, and above all else, I see you standing here alone." He said, "Allow me now to go out and fight and defend you." Imam al-Hussein said to him, "But my brother, you are the flag bearer." He said, "But my chest is so restricted, seeing these enemies, these hypocrites do what they do. Allow me please to go out and allow me to be of those who fight." He said to him, "My brother, why don't you at least get water for these children at this moment?" At that moment, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam went out with him. They both came out together with Abbas's intention to go towards the Euphrates. When he intended to go towards the Euphrates, the narrations mention to us that he came out to the opposition, and especially to Umar bin Sa'ad, and said to him, "Are you going to kill the son of the daughter of your prophet? He says to you, allow me to go to Rome and India, and you could at least leave Hijaz and Iraq for you. Shimr bin Diljoshan said to Abbas bin Ali at this moment, O son of Abu Turab, even if the whole earth was covered by water, you will not receive a drop of it until you pledge allegiance to Ibn Ziyad. Imam al-Hussein, having gone out to a certain period and a certain part, was struck. Abbas alayhi salam continued to go towards the Euphrates. There were many soldiers by the Furat. Abu al-Fadl reached the Furat, and then he sat there next to the water. He looked at the cold water which he gathered in his water bag, and then he saw the water again, but he could not bring himself to drink it while his master was thirsty. He called out at this moment, Ya nafsu min ba'd al-Husayn huni, wa ba'dahu la kunti an takuni. هذا الحسين وارد المنون وتشربين بارد المعين تالله ما هذا فعال ديني ولا فعال صادق يقيني. He then at that moment gathered the water, placed it, and he turned around and he saw many soldiers in front of him. He called out, لا أرهب الموت إذا الموت رقى حتى أوارى في المصاليت رقى نفسي لنفس الطهر الطاهر وقى إني أنا العباس أغدو بالسقى. When he came forward to fight, seeing there were those around him, all of a sudden a man struck the right hand of Abu al-Fadl. والله إن قطعتم يميني إني أحامي أبدا عن ديني وعن إمام صادق يقيني نجل النبي الطاهر الأمين. He then tried to hold on with his left arm, and then someone struck his left arm. At that moment he said, يا نفس لا تخشي من الكفار وابشري برحمة الجبار مع النبي السيد المختار قد قطعوا ببغيهم يساري. While he was trying to stay on the horse, Harmala bin Kahil struck him with an arrow into his eye. He couldn't see where he was, and the blood was all over the eye of Abu al-Fadl. At that moment, he fell on the ground with no arms to protect him. All he wanted was Abu Abdullah to be with him in his final moments. To the extent he even called out, whoever you are around me, don't kill me until I have my brother next to my master. Imam al-Hussein sat with him and took his cheek. At that moment when he took it, he said to him, Abu Abdullah, leave me here, don't take me back. He removed his head from the lap of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam placed his lap again, his head in the lap again. He removed it. He said to him, you take my head now, who'll take your head in a moment. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam returned back to the tent, crying from what had happened to Abu al-Fadl. He had made clear, الآن انكسر ظهري. Now my back has been truly broken. Imagine the love he had for Abu al-Fadl, that his back broke when Abu al-Fadl died. He came back towards the tent. Sukaina came out and said, where's my uncle? Imam al-Hussein said he's been martyred. Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam called out, wa akha, wa abbasa, wa day'atana ba'dak. At that moment, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam prepared himself to go out towards the battlefield, towards the army of Umar bin Sa'ad. Before he did this, he came into the tent. He said, give me my baby. They gave him the baby. He came out in front of the opposition. Umar bin Sa'ad at that moment called Harmala bin Kahil. He said, I want that baby dead. They struck the baby while the baby was in the arms of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. The baby began to flap its hands like a bird flaps its wings. Imam Hussain alayhi salam said, "Oh Allah, do not make this lighter than the injury that happened or the punishment that happened on those who killed the camel of Saleh." He came back towards the tent, but he didn't want to show the mother the state of the baby. He buried the baby in the earth of Karbala. Imam Hussain alayhi salam now was preparing himself to go out on the battlefield alone. May Allah give all of you patience. He turned round to his beloved Zainab alayhi salam, and he turned round to Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. As for Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, he bequeathed him all the belongings of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih, and all the testimonies and all the remainders of the belongings of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And he made it clear to everybody, come and pledge your allegiance to the Imam of your time, Ali ibn al-Hussein. As for Zainab alayhi salam, he said to her, bring me a piece of cloth. He ripped up the cloth, the bottom trousers. He ripped and made holes in it, for he knew that they'd plunder his body after he dies. So it was better to have a cloth that was ripped, that would not be worth taking from the body of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He looked at his sister Zainab, who was inconsolable. As he was about to leave, she said to him, Mahlan, Mahlan, ya ibn al-Zahra. Wait, wait, O son of Zahra. She turned round towards the land of Medina, as if she wanted to say something to her mother Fatima. Said, Aba Abdullah, when my mother was dying, she said, there'll be a day when Hussein is a stranger in Karbala. Give him this cloth. Imagine the feeling of a mother to her child. Many years before the child dies, give him this cloth and let the cloth cover his body. It's as if his mother was present to see what was happening. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, now ready to come out on the battlefield in front of the opposition, the first thing that he did was he attacked the right side of the army. While attacking the right side, he made forward with his lines, the famous lines, Al-Mawtu awla min rukub al-'ari, wal-'ar awla min dukhul al-nahri. Death is better than disgrace, but disgrace is better than entering hellfire. He went out, he attacked the right side, then he turned around and he went towards the left side, facing the left side of Umar bin Sa'ad's army. He came forward and he said, Ana al-Hussein ibn Ali. Allah. I am Hussein, son of Ali. Ana al-Hussein ibn Ali. آليت أن لا أنثني أحمي عيالات أبي أمضي على دين النبي. He came forward and he began to attack them. Abdullah ibn Ammar ibn al-Yahuth said, I have never in my life seen a man devastated by what's happened, but so brave, so strong, so steadfast that men were running away from him when he was approaching them fighting. Umar bin Sa'ad turned around to the men who were running away. He said to them, don't you know this is the son of Anza al-Batin? This is the son of the man who killed all of the Arabs. Shower him and attack him from every angle. At that moment, what they did, they showered the tents of Imam Hussain with the ladies with arrows. Some of the ladies' dresses were caught by these arrows. Imam Hussain alayhi salam looked at them and he said to them, O army of Yazid, if you don't believe in God and the day of judgment, then at least be free men. What have these women done wrong to you for you to attack them like that? At that moment, the narrations say that the Imam returned to his ladies. He came towards his ladies, beginning to bid them each farewell. When he came towards these ladies, as he was beginning to bid them farewell, he hugged each and every one of them. Then he turned around and he saw Sukaina sitting alone. He came towards Sukaina. Oh, Sukaina, what is it? Oh, Sukaina, what is it? Father, have you submitted yourself to death? He said to her, Sukaina, I have submitted myself to death, but you must remain strong. You must remain patient with what you're about to see. Allah will avenge what's happened, and He will make sure that that revenge happens. He began to tap her on her head like an orphan that she was. Then he turned around to Zainab alayhi salam. And when he turned around to Zainab, he tried to hold on to Zainab. It was his sister. He tried to console her and then remind her of the difficulties that she will shortly face. All of a sudden, Umar bin Sa'ad's army began to shower the army of Imam al-Hussein and the tents with arrows. Imam now had to get out, knowing that he had to go out and fight them. He went out to fight them vigilantly, and he went out to fight them valiantly, fighting all of them and approaching all of them. When he went out to approach all of them and fight all of them, all of a sudden they positioned themselves in a way where they could finally finish him. The first fatal blow on Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam came from Abu al-Hutuf al-Ju'fi, who shot an arrow into the forehead of Imam al-Hussein. Only Allah knows the pain of having an arrow into your forehead. Imam tried to take it out. He said, Oh Allah, look at these disobedient servants. Oh Allah, you know them individually. Kill each one of them for what they've done. Oh Allah, judge between us and them. This is what they've done to your chosen prophet's family, oh Allah. After this, a person picked up a rock and struck it on his forehead. Imam tried to stay on his horse, but the effect had too much on him. He fell on the ground, bleeding everywhere while he was on the ground. All of a sudden, from the tent of the Imam, two young men came running out. Muhammad, the son of Abu Sa'id, son of Aqil, son of Abu Talib, and Abdullah, son of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. They came out on the battlefield. When they ran out, Zainab called, come back, come back. They said, how do we come back? How do we come back? While our uncle lies there alone on the earth of Karbala. They sat by their uncle's body. They could see he was bleeding everywhere, lying there on the ground. At that moment, they placed their bodies, but both of them had the arrows of Harmala kill them. And now the Imam lay there. Then a man came and kicked the head of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. When he kicked the head of the Imam lay on the ground. The Imam laid like this for more than an hour, just saying all the time, Bismillah wa billah wa ala millati Rasulillah. Allah was angry with the Jews when they made Uzair his son. Allah was angry with the Christians when they said Jesus, God is the third of the three. He was angry with the Zoroastrians when they worshipped fire, and he will be angry with these people when they killed the son of the daughter of the Prophet. But I'll meet my Lord with my beard drenched in blood. The Imam lay on the earth of Karbala, trying to move one way and the other. At one moment, he took some sand so he could place his head on it. One narration said that he was similar to a porcupine in terms of the arrows that were on his body. But the army of Umar bin Sa'ad, none of them wanted to take responsibility of killing the Imam, because their tribe would be remembered for this forever. So every time someone would come, they would walk away, until one of them even said, when I came near his body with all of the arrows and all the spears that have been around him, his face was still radiant like the moon. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam lay there for more than an hour with no one to even come near him. So the best thing he decided to do at this moment was to talk to his Lord. He began to recite a dua at this moment, where he said, "Oh Allah, you are exalted in status, great in might, powerful in action, self-sustaining over creation. You are near in your mercy, truthful in your promise, acceptor of the repentant, good at testing, nearby to all of your creation. You are also the one who gets what you want, capable of willing what you want at any time that you want. You remember those who remember you, and you're grateful to those who are grateful to you. I therefore invoke you, O Allah, because I'm in need of you. And I desire from you, O Allah, because I'm in a state of utter poverty. I run to you in fear, and I cry to you out of despair. I call you for help because I am weak, and I ask you because you are the sustainer." At this moment, he then turned around and he said, "Patience with what you've decreed. There is no God but you. You are the helper of the helpless. You are the eternal over all those who will end. You are the reviver of the dead. You are the one who sees every action that the self commits. I invoke you, O Allah, because I need you. Change my situation, please." Umar bin Sa'ad turned around and he said, "Go and get his horse. I want that horse." But the horse of Imam al-Hussein wouldn't let his soldiers come near the Imam. it began to attack and killed 40 of the opposition, including killing 10 horses of Umar bin Sa'ad's army. At that moment, one of the men came and struck Imam Hussain on his head. And now the Imam was in intense pain, injuries all over his body. The horse came back to the tent, but it had no rider riding it. Kulthum looked at Zainab and said, Wa Jadda, Wa Abata, Wa Aliya, Wa Ja'fara, Wa Hamzata. هذا حسين بالعراء صريع بكربلاء. How I wish that the skies collapsed on the earth and the mountains fell on valleys. She looked at Umar bin Sa'ad. All of you know where I'm heading now. She looked at Umar bin Sa'ad and said, is there no Muslim amongst your army? How could you stand and watch Abu Abdullah in this state? A man came and kicked his shoulders. Another came and stepped on his body. Another came and kicked his legs. Umar bin Sa'ad said, now let him be in peace, finish him. All of you are in Karbala. Whether you're here or your heart is in Karbala, you are next to him now. You're in Karbala on Ashura. What else do you want? Sinan bin Anas and Shimr bin Diljoshan. Sinan bin Anas and Shimr bin Diljoshan began to walk towards him. Sinan bin Anas and Shimr bin Diljoshan. Imagine the heart of Zahra now. Imagine the heart of Amir al-Mu'mineen now. Imagine the heart of Rasulullah. Imagine the heart of Fatima al-Zahra. Imagine the heart of Imam Sahib al-Zaman. Imagine the heart of Zainab and Sukaina. No, don't do that to him. Leave my father. Leave my father alone. And another would call out, leave my brother alone. And somewhere in Medina one would call, leave my son alone. Sinan bin Anas came near his body. Shimr bin Diljoshan with him. Sinan came near his chest. Sinan took out his knife. Shimr bin Diljoshan next to him. Sinan grabbed the beard that Rasulullah used to touch. He took his neck. He took out his knife. The neck that Rasulullah used to kiss. The angels began to weep. He took the neck and severed the neck of the Imam. Shimr took the head and said, here is his head. His daughter looked at the horse. Ya Hussain, where's Hussain? Oh, horse of my father, where's my father? Don't let Ruqayya see her father. Umar bin Sa'ad ordered, now go towards their tents and burn them. Maqtal al-Hussein.